There is a family so wealthy, so powerful, and so secretive that most people only whisper their name. Not Elon Musk, not Jeff Bezos, not Bill Gates. Those men are rich, but they are visible. They give interviews. They post on social media. They appear on magazine covers. The family we are talking about today does none of that. Because when you have controlled the finances of nations for over 2 centuries, you do not need attention. You have something far more valuable than fame. You have power. Today, WealthVault is pulling back the curtain on the most secretive financial dynasty in human history. This is how the Rothschilds built the world's most powerful financial empire, and why almost nobody talks about it. Part 1. Where it all began. The story starts in the most unlikely place imaginable. A tiny, overcrowded ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. The year is 1744. Mayer Amschel Rothschild is born into poverty in the Judengasse, which translates directly to Jew Alley. A cramped, walled street where Frankfurt's Jewish population was forced to live, forbidden from owning land, forbidden from most professions, and locked inside the ghetto walls every night. From this beginning, one of the greatest financial empires in human history would be built. Mayer showed an extraordinary talent for finance from childhood. He apprenticed at a banking firm in Hanover as a teenager and returned to Frankfurt with knowledge that almost nobody in his community possessed. He began trading rare coins and antiques, slowly building a reputation for reliability, discretion, and exceptional financial skill. His breakthrough came when he attracted the attention of Prince Wilhelm IX of Hesse, one of the wealthiest royal figures in Europe. Mayer became the prince's personal financial agent, and with that relationship, the Rothschild story truly began. He had one rule that he passed to his sons above all others: Concordia, Integritas, Industria. Unity, integrity, industry. The 3 words that became the foundation of everything the Rothschilds would build. Part 2. The 5 Sons and the Master Plan. Mayer Amschel Rothschild had 10 children, but it was his 5 sons who would execute one of the most brilliant financial strategies in history. He sent each son to a different major European city to establish a Rothschild banking house. Amschel stayed in Frankfurt to manage the family headquarters. Salomon went to Vienna. Nathan, considered the most brilliant of the 5, went to London. Kalman went to Naples, and Jacob, known as James, went to Paris. 5 sons, 5 cities, 5 banking operations, all coordinated by a private courier network so fast and reliable that the Rothschilds consistently had access to critical financial and political information, days before governments and other financial institutions. This information advantage was worth more than gold. When Napoleon was defeated at Waterloo in 1815, Nathan Rothschild in London reportedly received the news a full day before the British government. He used that information advantage in the bond markets in a move that, depending on which historian you ask, either saved or dramatically profited the family at a scale that reshaped their wealth almost overnight. Whether the exact details of the Waterloo story are precisely accurate or somewhat embellished by history, the fundamental truth remains. The Rothschilds built a private intelligence and communication network that gave them an information edge over every competitor and every government in Europe. And information, then as now, is the ultimate financial weapon. Part 3. Financing nations and wars. By the mid-1800s, the Rothschild family had accumulated something that no private family had ever possessed before: the financial trust of multiple competing nations simultaneously. They financed Britain's war efforts. They financed Austria. They financed France. They financed infrastructure projects, railway networks, and government bonds across the entire European continent. When the British government needed £20 million to finance the purchase of shares in the Suez Canal in 1875, Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli needed the money within 24 hours, faster than Parliament could approve it. He sent a messenger to the Rothschilds. The loan was approved over lunch. without a single government signature, on the personal word of the Rothschild family. That is not banking. That is sovereign power. The Rothschilds became the de facto central bank of Europe long before central banks as we know them existed. Governments came to them, not the other way around. And crucially, because they maintained houses in multiple countries, they were uniquely positioned to profit from the financial needs of all sides in virtually every major European conflict of the 19th century. Here is where the Rothschild story becomes truly fascinating. At the peak of their power in the mid to late 1800s, the Rothschild family was almost certainly the wealthiest family on Earth. Some historians estimate their combined wealth at that time, adjusted for today's values, would exceed the net worth of every current billionaire on the Forbes list, combined. And then something unusual happened. They disappeared from public view. While the Rockefellers, Carnegies, and Vanderbilts of America were building ostentatious mansions and making headlines, the Rothschilds quietly restructured. They moved from public banking to private banking. They diversified into wine estates, real estate, mining, and art collections. They restructured their businesses as private partnerships that required no public financial disclosure. They understood something that very few wealthy families ever grasp in time. Visible wealth attracts enemies. Invisible wealth compounds in peace. The less the world could see, the less the world could threaten. And so they built a structure of deliberate invisibility that has protected and grown their wealth for over a century since. So, where does the Rothschild empire stand today? The honest answer is that nobody outside the family knows precisely, and that is entirely by design. What we do know is that the Rothschild Group operates as one of the world's leading independent financial advisory firms, advising on mergers, acquisitions, and restructurings for some of the largest corporations and governments on the planet. The family maintains vast wine estates, including the legendary Chateau Mouton Rothschild and Chateau Lafite Rothschild, two of the most prestigious and valuable wine estates in the world. Their real estate holdings span multiple continents. Their art collections are considered among the most valuable private collections in existence. And their network of relationships with governments, central banks, and corporate boardrooms remains intact after more than 2 centuries. Current estimates of the Rothschild family's total wealth vary enormously precisely, because so much of it is deliberately structured to remain invisible. Conservative estimates run into the hundreds of billions. Some researchers place the figure significantly higher. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the Rothschild wealth is not its size, it is its age. Most great fortunes last 3 generations before being divided, squandered, or lost. The Rothschilds have maintained and grown their dynasty for 8 generations across more than 250 years. So what can we actually learn from the Rothschild story? First, information is the ultimate asset. Before they had billions, the Rothschilds had better information than everyone else. They invested in networks, relationships, and intelligence that kept them ahead of every competitor and every government they dealt with. Second, family unity is a wealth strategy. Mayer Amschel's founding principle of unity above all else prevented the wealth dilution that destroys most multi-generational fortunes. They kept capital together, made decisions together, and protected each other across borders. Third, invisibility protects wealth. The deliberate retreat from public visibility was not a weakness. It was a sophisticated strategy that shielded their assets from political targeting, public resentment, and competitive attacks for over a century. Fourth, diversification across everything: banking, real estate, wine, art, mining, advisory services. No single market crash, no single government policy, and no single industry disruption has ever been able to threaten the entire Rothschild portfolio simultaneously. And fifth, play the longest game possible. While most investors think in quarters and most wealthy families think in decades, the Rothschilds have been executing a multi-generational strategy measured in centuries. That is not investing. That is dynasty building. So, there you have it. From a cramped ghetto in 18th century Frankfurt to a global financial empire that has advised governments, financed nations, and quietly accumulated wealth for over 250 years. The Rothschild story is not just history. It is a masterclass in building wealth that truly lasts. Now here is the question I want you to think about. Of all the strategies the Rothschilds used, information advantage, family unity, deliberate invisibility, extreme diversification, and long-term thinking, which one do you think is the most powerful wealth strategy of all? Drop your answer in the comments below. This one always sparks a great debate. Subscribe to WealthVault for weekly wealth secrets and breakdowns of the most powerful financial dynasties in history. See you in the next one.